Ti ho reggato. Tényleg jó reggelt. Körülbelül egy órája ébredtem. Került elaludjak megint. Így be. Two minutes. Honestly thought that this was gonna start an hour later. Just a few more seconds.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rogers from Grinding Gear Games, and welcome to GGG Live. Today we're going to show you an exclusive reveal of Path of Exile Keepers of the Flame, which is coming out 1 week from now on October the 31st. Twitch drops are enabled on today's live stream, so you'll be able to claim your Hiveborn crawler pet by following the instructions below. Without further ado, let's roll the trailer for Path of Exile Keepers of the Flame.
Okay, here we go.
We, the Keepers of the Flame, serve the will of the Dreamer. His instructions whispered from beyond the wall of sleep. But now, the Hiveborn are here, on Rayclast, and they seek to poison our world.
What? So we have a...
We must close their breaches, destroy their hives, slay their breach lords. And by his gifts, the Dreamer provides. They brought this war to our world, but we shall end it, whatever it takes.
What the hell? Yep, Reach 2.0. Wait, what? Okay, we are getting the trade system. That's really good. Awesome. No more fucking 1C trades. And AFK. Let's not say anything else.
Now, as you can see, this expansion is a true sequel to the Breach League, first introduced to the game in 2016. We felt like it was time to progress the story of Breach, bringing with it a slew of new updates to the base game. In today's stream, we'll take you on a deep dive into Path of Exile Keepers of the Flame, beginning with the League mechanic, covering all the fearsome challenges it presents, and the new twisted ways you'll be able to empower your character. After that, we'll dive into the newest ascendancy options possible with Bloodline classes. Then we'll cover the much anticipated and synchronous trade system coming to Path of Exile 1. Afterwards, move into the new Uber Pinnacle bosses, how to access them, and some new drops worthy of the added difficulty. Finally, we'll cover some notable quality of life improvements before moving on to our supporter packs and challenge rewards. We'll then have a live Q&A session where Ziggy D will ask Path of Exile's game directors Mark and myself your questions from Twitch chat. And after the live stream, we'll drop the full patch notes at 11 AM New Zealand time or 3 PM Pacific. So let's get started. I'll hand things over to Mark to introduce the new league.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, Game Director on Path of Exile. Breach is a beloved league that has had an iconic history in PoE. We intend to honour that legacy with our first ever sequel league, Keepers of the Flame. This develops every aspect of Breach, adding new layers to discover, richer lore, scarier bosses, and entirely new mechanics. That said, this is still Breach, so you will still be opening breaches and slaying hordes of otherworldly monsters. The Breach Lords have found the means to stabilize the connection between their realm and Rayclast. Now, with their grip tightening, we learn their true goal in our world, conquest. The threat they pose has now escalated to home soil. On the coast in Act 1, you'll encounter Aelith, the founder of the Keepers of the Flame. This is a monastic order sworn to defend Rayclast from the Breach Lords. The exit to the Mudflats has been barricaded by Hiveborn, Breach monsters that are working to claim every inch of Rayclast. Aelith can grant you a small spark of the power of the Flame, allowing you to blast away their barricade and move onwards. Once you enter the Mudflats, you'll find it infested with Breach monsters. They appear to be constructing a kind of hive, creating strange shapes and structures that absolutely don't belong. Time to purge them with fire. Aelith needs you to protect her as she empowers the flame to do so. Hold off the assault long enough, and she'll be able to demolish the hive with cleansing flame. In other areas, the gap between worlds is strained. Here, you'll find a more familiar encounter with a new twist. A massive breach hand sunders the space between dimensions, and touching it will open an unstable breach, causing monsters to flood in.
Okay, so this
If
is
you
the
can
normal
slaughter them
breach.
quickly
then.
enough, you can stabilize the breach. This brazen action can draw the attention of Vroon, Marshal of Zesht, who will do everything it can to stop you. Defeating this boss will permanently seal the breach, severing another connection between the Breachlord's world and Rayclast. These stabilized breaches are similar to what a breach
Prepare
once
to be
was,
one-shot by
but
this.
with upgraded monsters, a success condition to shoot for, UI tracking to keep the player informed of their progress through the encounter, and satisfying feedback when you do manage to complete the encounter. We've taken all the lessons we've learned since the release of Breach 9 years ago and improved upon it in every way we can. However, much of the joy of Breach came from its simplicity. While we want to modernize the mechanic, we don't want to undermine the core experience. You're still mostly just slaughtering hordes of enemies in a circle. Finally, in endgame areas you might run into breach constructions that have been left unopposed for too long and have grown into their full twisted glory. Breach hives. Towering flesh-crafted cities in the sky. These are the visions of the Breachlords made real in Rayclast, teeming with breach monsters. You must raid and destroy these cities with the help of Aelith and her flame. In some of these hives, you may even encounter some of the Breachlords themselves, who will not be happy you're intruding on their planned conquest.
Okay, so this says
Now,
then
let's talk loot. Of course,
Rip on
being
it.
an exile is hard work, and you're unlikely to help entirely out of the goodness of your heart. Fortunately, Aelith has power and rewards aplenty, born of the Breach Realm itself, to offer you for your assistance. Help her, and she'll bring you to the Monastery of the Keepers, the hallowed halls of her order. Here, you'll find the Genesis Tree, the growing heart of the Keeper's power. On interacting
fuck
with
is
it,
this?
you'll find that this tree has a tree. That's right. It couldn't be Path of
The tree
Exile
has a
unless
tree.
the tree also had a tree. More importantly, the Genesis tree is an engine of unholy creation, and a profitable one. As you complete breach encounters and work more with Aelith, you'll be able to grow the Genesis tree larger and larger, sprouting additional limbs. Each of these limbs, you'll notice, has their own inventories. These can be used for an unusual method of crafting new items.
drop
With this
things.
system, you'll be able to grow currency, uniques, equipment, and a new kind of otherworldly item, grafts.
The money tree.
Grafts are breach hands grown directly from the Genesis tree, born of the same flesh and sinew as the invading monsters. These fuse directly to your body, in a completely safe process. Don't worry about it. With grafts, you can harness the power of the breach. Some provide passive benefits like this, or this, but they can also grant a wide selection of powerful skills.
What's that?
These graft skills can provide a flexible way to fill gaps in your build, offering everything from damage to potent defensive buffs and crowd control. For example, the Battering All graft will call massive arms to erupt from the earth, stunning all those they hit. For some additional pack clearing power, you could consider the Squalling Tool graft. When commanded, this graft will cast Dance in the White, creating a deadly ice tornado which aggressively seeks enemies and fires off bursts of ricocheting projectiles when you critically strike with skills. For some further utility
interesting.
and a useful buff, try out the Storming Ash graft. This can be commanded to call down a ring of bolts from the sky that will leave behind the new radiant ground. Radiant Ground grants a potent damage buff to allies standing within it and makes their hit damage lucky. If you're simply after raw damage,
that's
look
good.
no further than the Erupting Zothgraft, which causes massive eruptions of fire where you command, which then re-erupt when you Warcry. There are a total of 16 different graft types you can grow, each with their own skill. You can even unlock a second graft slot as you progress through Aelith's questline, so feel free to mix and match Flesh Zone horrors to your heart's content. Now, grafts aren't just here to make you stronger, they are also your means of feeding the Genesis tree, which needs constant supplies of graft blood to grow anything useful. You can do this by defeating breach monsters, which will leave behind blood that your graft will automatically collect. When you feed this blood to the tree, your allocated passives will be put to work. This section of the Genesis tree can be used to grow new grafts for you, which the Genesis tree will then birth in a gruesome display. Basic passives on the tree might increase item rarity of birthed grafts, or the chance to birth additional grafts. These passives can target specific types of grafts, and this passive causes grafts to be birthed with a random amount of quality. Quality improves the amount of blood that can be stored by your grafts. This section of the Genesis tree births currency items. Basic passives can result in more or better currency.
It's out currency.
Allocate this passive to sometimes cause a shower of currency to burst forth from the flesh of the tree. Yeah, it's a bit gross, but working with the organic matter of a bunch of dead otherworldly creatures was never going to be a clean affair. Grafts themselves are born of a different world, so are unmodifiable by most currencies. However, with this passive, the Genesis tree can occasionally grow fleshy mockeries of currency orbs. These function like augmentation orbs, regal orbs, or exalted orbs, but they work on your grafts instead of normal gear. Yep, it's graft crafting. Allocating this passive can result in foul-born currencies. This foul-born exalted orb, for instance, behaves as a normal exalted orb, except it guarantees a higher tier modifier. By locking out a large portion of the lower rolls, a normal exalted orb would be able to hit.
Okay, so this is from
the
PoE
Genesis tree
to
is used to grow rare equipment items. For these, you have a lot of agency to influence the type and modifiers on your grown item. For example,
it's like perfect
you can
exhaust.
specifically target boots with a dexterity requirement, with an increased chance for speed modifiers, and reduced chance for cold modifiers. Or maybe you'd prefer to look for a two-handed axe with increased chance for physical modifiers. This section of the tree is for growing unique items. Similar to the equipment section, there are passives that let you target growing specific types of uniques or rarer uniques. The process of growth is not always a perfect one, however, and can result in some defects. This passive can result in birthed uniques becoming foul-born, which mutates one of the existing modifiers on the item into a new one, resulting in some interesting new ways to use that unique. For example, this foul-born Quill Rain no longer has increased projectile speed, but instead has increased area of effect. Another foul-born Quill Rain could replace the mana gained on hit with the much more powerful modifier where insufficient mana doesn't prevent your bow attacks. Here
I
are some
wonder
other
if we
examples.
can get some drop restricted uniques too from here.
This passive even gives a rare chance for foul-born uniques to have multiple different modifiers mutated. I'm sure you'll come up with some extremely powerful uses for these. We'll leave it up to you to discover what this mysterious part of the Genesis tree can grow. So, ultimately, you'll be slaying masses of breach
This is
monsters,
much more than I expected.
harvesting blood with the aid of your grafts, feeding that to the Genesis tree, growing some items and better grafts, and back again to the slaughter. As with all our challenge leagues, this league will come with a set of 40 challenges to pursue, and completing them will award you with the Keeper of the Flame armor set, allowing you to truly embrace becoming a monk and worshipping the Dreamer. Now, graft skills won't be the only new tools to play with. In
New skills,
327,
wait.
we're also adding a
Didn't
collection
get
of
any
new skill and support
quite
gems.
a while.
Let's go over them now. Kinetic Rain is a new wand attack which covers the ground in unstable kinetic energy. These hazards collapse at the slightest touch, releasing their energies into any unfortunate soul who happens to be standing on them. With enough projectiles and area of effect, an
You wanted to
enterprising
start
exile
a
could carve
wonder,
the
I
world
guess.
in dangerous kinetic force. Wall of Force creates a barrier of kinetic power, causing allied projectiles to ricochet towards targets automatically. Drop one behind a boss and redirect the bolts of your armies. I'm sure you'll find ways to break this one.
Definitely.
Conflagration is a new bow attack which rains down fiery bolts from above that stick into the ground and pulse as you approach. Once you get close enough, these bolts detonate, causing ravaging ignites. These bolts chain react, allowing you to create fields of incendiary destruction. Thunderstorm is a bow attack, which creates a whirling storm of wind and lightning where it lands. While you're within the storm, it will rapidly grow, until it becomes violently thunderous with lightning
Okay,
infused
this is gonna be
clouds.
broken. I call it
At
this.
this point, leaving the
early.
storm will cause it to detonate, dealing damage to everything within and releasing a flurry of tornadoes in all directions.
This is the new tornado shot.
Attacking with kinetic fusillade will create hovering orbs of energy. These linger for a few moments above you before zipping off to nearby targets, chaining between them, then detonating.
We got the salvo skills, okay.
Living Lightning support will bring to life living sparks of energy, elemental minions that zap through packs of enemies with speed and ease. Use these alongside your spellcasting to augment your pack clearing abilities, or find whatever means possible to cover the world in living sparks of ruin. Windburst support unleashes chaotic tornadoes as you attack, which ricochet around wildly and quickly. These deal moderate damage as they travel, but will explode into a highly damaging burst when they expire. So it's a choice between scaling their duration up to get better coverage, or down to access the burst more quickly. Kinetic Instability is a support gem to go along with the new wand attacks that causes enemies slain to leave behind those same orbs of shimmering energy that Kinetic Rain creates. One might ponder just how many orbs you can create if you were to use both.
Oh no.
In 327, exiles will be able to absorb the power of some of the bosses they defeat. These take the form of new Ascendancy class options, called Bloodlines.
Lit.
Bloodline classes are a new means of character customization in the endgame. They are secondary Ascendancy classes that are unlocked by defeating specific endgame bosses. They are allocated with your normal Ascendancy points, and you'll have to choose how many of your points go into the original Ascendancy and how many into your Bloodline class. This means there is a nigh limitless ability to mix and match here, as you could choose to invest just a couple points into your Bloodline, or max it out, and you could take any Bloodline with any base Ascendancy class that you see fit. To unlock your Bloodline,
Wait, what?
hunt down the endgame boss whose power you desire, and defeat them, or have a friend help, and claim the power for your own. There are 10 Bloodline classes to discover. Bosses who offer this power are typically associated
This
with
is
past
gonna be a
leagues,
banger, holy
giving
shit.
additional reasons to engage with that league content. Let's run over a few examples. The Chaos Bloodline will be offered to you by the Trial Master, if you manage to succeed his final challenge. With his blessing, you can greatly augment your Val skills in different ways. Priest of Yalmak lets you use Val skills much more often, while Priest of Kopek makes it harder to build up Val skills, but makes them far more powerful. Or take Corruption's Embrace, which grants more Val Keystone powers the more corrupted items you have equipped. The Ashabi bloodline can be gained by, you guessed it, defeating Ashabi. Her abilities are drawn from the 3 types of life force that manifest within as Marian spirits. The Wild Bear rewards you with adrenaline for generating rage. The Vivid Cat gives your elusive buffs a chance to refresh, as well as making you more stealthy while elusive. The Primal Owl allows your unleashed spells to reoccur many additional times, and get stronger for each time they reoccur. The Nameless bloodline comes from the King in the Mists. Be forewarned, his menacing power comes at a great cost. With the Unseen Hand, you can equip a third ring, but you'll have to decide if that comes at the expense of having no amulet, no belt, or no flasks. Unlight Silhouette adds a hefty life cost to all your spells, but they deal additional chaos damage based on the amount of life spent. Of course, there is more to come. What powers might you glean from delving deep underneath Rayclass to fight all the Crystal King? What secrets can you learn from Lycia, Herald of the Scourge,
Hopefully
waiting
there's
at the end of the
something
Forbidden
for
Sanctum?
spellcasters too.
As you can imagine, there are countless possible combinations with the system. You could be a Slayer that embraces corruption and vile power, or perhaps you'll play an Occultist that doubles down on their dark power by integrating the Nameless bloodline. We are excited to see what crazy and interesting builds players come up with. In the most recent Path of Exile 2 expansion, the Third Edict, we introduced a much anticipated feature, fully asynchronous trade. It was a fantastic success, so now we're excited to announce that we'll also be adding this feature into Path of Exile 1. When you reach Act 6, you'll be able to find Faustus in Lion Eye's Watch. Previously, he just operated the currency exchange. Now, he will also act as a steward for your merchants tabs. These are where you can place items for sale, for direct and instant purchase by other players even when you're not online. To list an item, simply place it in the tab and select a currency and an amount.
I'll let you know.
Once
Here we
listed,
do. This
other
works
players
so,
will be able
so
to find
good.
the item by searching for it via the trade website or the new in-game market search. To purchase something for yourself, it's as easy as hitting this button, which will teleport you to the seller's hideout, where you can view their merchants tabs, buy the item, and also view the rest of their wares in case something else catches your eye. Every purchase costs a small fee of gold, as Faustus takes his cut. To account for this further drain on gold, acquisition and
That a
cost
new
balance elsewhere in
skill?
the game has been adjusted. Anything you've managed to sell successfully will have your profits collected here, in a separate tab to claim at your leisure. To be clear, previous means of trading, such as via pre-existing premium stash tabs and the website, will still function just as before. Merchants tabs, and the asynchronous trading that comes with them, are an entirely additive feature on top of the already existing methods to trade. You might find yourself needing the trade system to buy some upgrades, because this update also introduces 3 new Uber Pinnacle boss fights. These encounters are manifested from the memories of Zana, and in her long
This was
torment, they
expected.
have festered into something truly deadly. These fights offer an imposing challenge, alongside powerful rewards. In order to gain access, similar to existing Uber Pinnacle fights, you'll need to discover fragments dropped by Tier 17 map bosses. Each attempt at the new Uber Pinnacle fights will require 5 of these. Let's dig into some of the challenges you'll need to face in these new Uber versions. In the original incarnation of Neglect fight, the statues can be used to block the laser beams to hide behind, giving you an opportunity to avoid being shocked, frozen, or killed. When you run near these statues, they activate and allow you to reposition them. While activated, they will not stop the lasers, meaning you want to position them well, then avoid them. However, in the Uber version of this fight, instead of being a safe haven, the statues will refract the laser beams, causing a ruckus of energy to cover the arena.
Oh shit.
Activating them will prevent the refraction, so unlike the base fight, where you want to position them well and then avoid them, you'll be wanting to constantly keep these statues active. But then, you have to deal with their assault of attacks. While fighting the incarnation of Fear, these fiery orbs will slowly clutter up the arena, locking off portions of it until you bait the boss into detonating them himself with his thrown spear. When Uberified, these orbs are attached by a flaming leash to the boss, rotating around him constantly. More and more will spawn as the fight goes on, making it even more imperative that you clean them up by cleverly using the boss's abilities against him.
What will they drop?
Normally in the Incarnation of Dread fight, during the bullet hell phase, you have to acquire a red rose, run it to the boss, then collect a blue rose, doing the same, causing it to get heavy stunned and interrupting its mechanic. In the Uber version, you have to do the same, but in order to get the blue rose, you have to defeat the Incarnation of Neglect, and to get the red rose, you have to defeat the Incarnation of Fear. Good luck. Given the difficulty of these bosses, their rewards should be worth your while. Let's take a look at some. From the Uber Incarnation of Neglect fight, we have Bitter Instinct, a spiky shield that turns retaliatory strikes into preemptive ones, making it just a matter of time before the long arm of justice crushes your foes. Alternatively, you might find Festering Resentment, a poisoned blade with an unending supply of toxins built into the hilt. These toxins are put to good use, causing every spell you trigger to be capable of poisoning with all damage it deals, enabling a truly crazy trigger-centric poison
This is gonna be
rush.
interesting.
And from the Uber Incarnation of Dread, the Hallowed Monarch, a counterpart to the Dark Monarch, which focuses more heavily on investing into one or a few minions, rather than growing your hordes to massive proportions. Storm Rayclast, with your chosen few at your side, stealing power from your enemies as you go. We've got a number of quality of life changes to bring to 327 as well, many of which you may have seen already in some of our pre-livestream teasers, but for those who haven't, Heist is a mechanic which has long frustrated some players who may otherwise have been interested in the rewards it has to offer, but have no desire to grind through the early progress of finding and running low-level contracts to get all of the rogues to their maximum level. Well, starting in 327, Heist rogues will automatically begin at maximum level, so you can start your dubious criminal career without all the busy work. Points invested into your Atlas passive tree will now be refundable with gold. Just speak to Kerak to do so. For players who love jumping between strategies, there's also an option to instantly refund your entire tree, which of course can now also be done with your regular passive tree as well. Now you can make all your decisions with no regrets. Well, maybe some regrets. You no longer need to purchase bestiary orbs. You can now itemize beasts for free directly from your bestiary. From late Act 1, you can now mass identify your items at an NPC in every town, and from Helena in your hideout. This does not require Scrolls of Wisdom at all. While using an Alteration Orb, you can now hold Alt to swap to using an Augmentation Orb, if one is available. Opening a Blight
Sounds
chest
good,
will now
actually.
open all other Blight chests near it. Rogue's disenchanting services can now be accessed from towns and hideouts. Kerak missions now have a handy icon to show at a glance what kind of mission they are. Holding down Control and right-clicking on stacked decks will now continuously open them to your inventory, notifying you in chat what the outcome is. If you still want to open them direct to the ground, to let your loot filter provide a dose of dopamine, you can still do that too by also holding Shift. Val Orbs can be used on monsters encased in essences, to the same effect that Remnants of Corruption have. When multiple skill gems are ready to level at the same time, you'll now be able to click this button to level them all up at once. Next up, we're going to be talking about our new League supporter packs. Today, we're launching two new series of supporter packs, the Champion of Theopolis and the Verdant Magus packs. Each tier contains the pack's full face value in points, alongside several exclusive microtransactions. As always, the microtransactions in these packs are purely cosmetic and do not affect your character's power
It looks weird.
or progression in any way. The Champion of Theopolis series of supporter packs contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. Manifest a Champion's Ferocity, as the Lion's Might unique finisher effect rips your enemies to shreds. Open the Champion of Theopolis portal to end your crusade through maps in the style expected of a true victor of the arena. Defeat your enemies like a true gladiator, wearing the Grand Champion of Theopolis armor set. The armor awarded only to the most elite warriors of the Grand Arena. Take charge of the situation and storm into combat with the Flaming Minotaur's Quicksilver Flask effect.
The Champion's Podium map device rises up to honor the glory you've achieved as you activate it.
Ascend the stairs and stand atop the platform as you enter your maps. Each flame surrounding the platform represents a remaining use on your portal. The burden-back Billy Goat carries all the supplies necessary for a campsite as he travels behind you in battle. When placed in a hideout, instead of roaming around like your other pets, their supplies are deployed, creating a small camp where you can access your stash and providing a place to take a load off while you rest next to the campfire. The Verdant Magus series contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. Having Faustus sell your items on your behalf is great and all, but sometimes you just want to feel a little bit more shady about your dealings. The Back Alley Trader hideout decoration is more secretive with your trades, creating distance between you and your customers. Note that until 327 is released, this Back Alley Trader will only serve as your currency exchange. Once it's out, it will be updated to have the new Managed Shop option to also facilitate your trades. The Verdant Wayfinder pet is a loyal companion to any Master Magus. As you approach waypoints, it envelops them with its vines, guiding you throughout Rayclast. Control Earth and nature itself, as the Great Verdant Magus armor set envelops you in the ancient power now lost to time. There's also a matching back attachment included. Remnants of the forest ripple out from within you with the Verdant Magus level up effect equipped, restoring life to the corrupted land. Call on an ancient golem to use their power to create a safe passage for you to retreat through with the Arcane Golem portal. As a Supreme Verdant Magus, you can travel to your Arcane Isle hideout. A cluster of islands held together by ancient magic passed down between elite mages. Stand atop your tower and relish the great heights you've reached above those who have not harnessed the
Actually
arcane.
looks really good.
These packs are now available for purchase on both PC and console and will remain so during Path of Exile Keepers of the Flame. Additionally, any microtransactions from these supporter packs will be made available for use in Path of Exile 2. Meanwhile, the Crypt Keeper and Frisian Magistrate packs leave the store forever at the launch of the Keepers of the Flame League, so now's your last chance to purchase them. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. Afterwards, we'll post the full patch notes for Path of Exile Keepers of the Flame at 11 AM New Zealand time, 3 PM Pacific. With release at the end of next week, our community team will be posting crucial information you'll need for the release. Keep an eye on the news. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments. We're looking forward to holding off the Breachlord's conquest, crafting gruesome grafts, planning dozens of Bloodline-empowered builds, and filling out our tree's tree. We hope you all join us.
Well, this is gonna be a big one, I guess.
G'day Exiles and welcome to the post-reveal discussion and Q&A with Jonathan and Mark, lead guys who make games, I believe was what we discussed as the titles.
Yeah,
That's the
official title. Yeah.
Excellent. I like it, it's good. We're talking about how to inflate their titles in the lead up to this. 327 Keepers of the Flame, the reveal we just had there was, I think, quite a banger, but I've been even more impressed with what I've been playing here in the office with some of that, so we'll get into that in a moment. But I'm curious, this is kind of like a special kind of reveal day for PoE 1 fans, as I think it marks a return to schedule for us. You announced this plan to do the 4-month cycle for the games, two twos, and it seems to be working.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly hard. I'll tell you that, right? Like, it can be pretty brutal on some of the stuff when it's like, every 2 months you got a deadline. But yeah, I mean, look, we have to do it, right? Like, I mean, that was always the intention to get, the regular schedule. It's super important, so we have to make it happen. We have to
Finally.
make sure that is something that we can do
Was
going
about
forward.
time.
But yeah, I would like. I'm honestly, I'm so happy that we managed to, to get everything back, and I think it helps a lot.
I think like things feel a lot less like crazy here this visit for me, like, and things seem a bit more of a finished state as well from what I've been looking at. So
well, we're putting a lot more effort into sort of getting that production process down, making sure that everything's going well. Like, we're hiring producers at the moment, just by the way, in case anyone's out there looking for as a for a production job. It's something that we're really concentrating on, making sure that because when you've got a schedule like this, when it's this tight, you have to be really, really careful, because like I would say one of the hardest things that we didn't expect, trying to make sure that we get the schedule this short, is you start to become really vulnerable to just like random things, like this person gets sick or like something like that, and that's like suddenly it's like a real challenge. That's been real hard to adapt to. But yeah, I mean, honestly, we have to do it.
Because PoE 2's 030 kind of, we missed it by a week or two as well.
Yeah,
We're like, normally that's okay.
Yeah.
You slip a week or two, but now all of a sudden, now you got a bit 2 week more overlap with 327. And it certainly has less room for error. But again, that's why more production staff should help, and we are just going to get better at it. But yes, we made it to 326 and now 327, mostly on schedule, give or take. One was, you could argue one's an anomaly, two is a pattern, so hopefully it should continue as normal, but we'll get better at it 100%, so we'll work out the kinks, but it was always going to be some growing pains to going to 6 releases a year for both across
So we're getting
I remember thinking
new skills, crafting system, way to get rewards.
6 is pretty wild, but
Using, I guess,
it seems
some
to be happening, so fingers crossed it keeps
new
happening.
bosses.
Is the contingency just that, like, occasionally you just might delay by a few weeks here?
I don't
New
want to. I really
ascendancies.
want to be real strict about it. Like,
we said we'd stick to
kind
the
of.
time and adapt the content around the time, like consistency is
And
key.
hopefully some
So hopefully we can keep doing that.
gem
That's
changes too.
still our current philosophy and plan, so
I think you were telling me once before, Jonathan, that when you have that for a while, it kind of helps everyone get an idea of like scoping a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it helps with
The most
everything, right? It
important
helps with
thing
the players,
is
just
that
feeling
we are
consistency. It
getting
helps with,
is
like,
OG
developers,
ice
like,
wall.
it's just overall like a way better state to be in.
But
Breach 2.
I think that's only
Keep us
for
inflamed.
kinetic
It's
skills,
the,
like
first
one
real
skills.
direct sequel league in
Or
PoE.
is it
Now, I
for
know
all
we're kind of
projectiles?
cycling with stuff in PoE
I'm actually curious
There's,
when we're gonna
definitely
have
follow-ups
to
there, but this is the actual first true
check that
sequel
with
league,
the
and it
patch
seems like
notes.
people are pretty keen on the idea. I think the reception's been pretty good so far. First impressions. What are your guys' thoughts on doing a sequel? Were you like anti-sequel, pro-sequel? Because I know people kind of.
I would say personally that, like, so whenever you do a sequel, you're entering a dangerous territory, because people who didn't like the original could then now be like, oh, I'm disappointed because like as soon as they hear that it's a sequel to something they didn't like, they're like, it's not happy. So you could just be ruling out a bunch of people in your audience right away. Now, Breaches, I would say, is a pretty popular one, so like there's less danger there.
Yeah.
But effectively, in order to make a sequel to something, I think you really have to be doing something that had to be a real banger back when you did it, so that
The new one skills are actually looking good too.
In general, I'd say would prefer to do stuff that's like new.
Yeah, like the one that leaves behind a bunch of
people are liking it. So
orbs or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, as Jonathan said,
These look
yes, like
pretty busted.
some leagues are more divisive than others. Some have more kind of X factor out there gameplay, with the whole Blight Tower defense, and some of them are more maps and a bit more crazy. And immediately you do turn off some people, and we know that going in. When we make these, we try and make it, something good for everyone. But Breach had that, just like you're just slaying hordes of monsters. You're just killing. It's the classic. We talk about reinventing the wheel. Here we talk about not reinventing the killing monsters in circles. And it has that. And by the way, that is a massive thing when doing the sequel, is we must keep the killing monsters in circle. Because the last thing I want to do is, and this is another risk of a sequel, is take something that people love and then just ruin it. We really focused on the weaknesses of what Breach had, because it was nine years ago, almost to date, I think it was.
Anything with delayed damage sucks. I mean,
December 9 years ago,
yeah,
so we're
that
almost
is
there.
true.
Yeah, just if you want to feel a bit old for a moment there.
My back, ow.
you know, and I actually still remember working on it. It does not feel like it was that long ago. I made those 5, you know, the 5 Breach Lords back when, and you know, put together all the monsters and all that interesting stuff back then. And I was like, what was I doing? Like we took the player characters, put some micros on them, and dunked them in red paint.
That was the style at the time.
You know, it was like, so it's not only been fun to come back and do a sequel. Which, by the way, we've codenamed Breakwall, which is obviously a given. But
important.
We've coming with like 9 years of lessons learned, including you know with all the lessons learned from PoE 2 as well, and then coming back and being like, what do we know now that we didn't know back then? And it's like, okay, let's not sabotage the gameplay, the killing of monsters, the killing monsters in a circle, and let's focus on the weaknesses. And so then we looked at, okay, well. Nowadays, if we were to do a league, it generally comes with, you know, some character power arc. You've got some crafting system. You know, there's generally a meta system, and then that's where you get like the grafts, the Genesis,
Yeah, that's
tree and
true.
all that stuff come in, and again, focusing
Although
on that, less of like, you know,
the
focusing on
new
the content
tornado
mechanics this
shot
time around,
thing,
because we kinda
bow
knew
skill
that was a
looks really good
success.
too.
And you'll find that. You know, it might be less trivial with some of the other contents that's a little bit more like crazy with
Yeah,
respect to
KB with
combat.
that wall is gonna be
We'll
OP.
see, we'll see.
I'm definitely eager to dive into like basically all of the things you mentioned there. But out of interest, what's like a league mechanic or a expansion that you either would or wouldn't want to sequel at some point? Like, what would be a bad example? It's maybe interesting.
Well, I think the one that you said there with the tower defense stuff, it's just like that would be very divisive, right? Immediately, if we said doing a
I mean, this just cements your decision earlier. From earlier.
I know.
I think
don't,
you get
right?
both ends of this. I think you get the most passionate people
Exactly,
wanting it,
right?
and then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get the most people that hate it on the other side.
right.
For sure.
Yeah.
That being said, like, it isn't like, oh no, that means Blight's never getting improved.
Right.
There's differences between overhauling and improving a league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
and
the
obviously
new
doing a
mutated
narrative
mods.
sequel where
I'm actually
kind of step
curious
away
if
from some of
they
the,
can appear
you know,
on some drop restricted uniques
really
too.
here it's like, yes, Blight,
Because if it doesn't, you know,
right?
it's
And so
gonna
all of them will get attention. Sometimes
be
it'll
nice
just be
too.
quality of life, similar to what we've done with Heist this time round. Because honestly, that might probably deserves more. And then other times it'll just be an upgrade.
I certainly wouldn't want people to say, oh yeah, we're just going to do sequels from now on. Though we're definitely not. Like, I don't think it's going to be the most common thing. I think it's just a thing we decided to do here, and you know, maybe we'll do it again sometime. But most of the time, I think people want new stuff and, you know, different new things.
I like the revisits. I wonder. There's definitely some lore and stuff I'd like to see expanded. Like, I feel like Harbinger, for example, touched on some stuff that was maybe only scratching the surface.
Part of what allows us to do the sequel here, by the way, and from a more production point of view, is that because we did the Twisted Domain and the new Breach monsters in PoE 2, we got to utilize the monsters. So we didn't take the bosses from PoE 2. We made full from scratch boss fights for this version for Keepers of the Flame. Cool. But for the monsters, a lot of it's reusing the models, the animations, the rigging, you know, a lot of the art side of it. And because we get to do that, we get to then focus our attention on all those other things that we would otherwise have to have a bunch of resources dedicated to. So, like, there's a kind of like two birds, one stone going on there where we not only got to do it, we got to do it in a more cost-effective way that allowed us to focus on other features that are going in the expansion. So, you know, win-win for players and for us in that regard. But, you know, it would be less trivial with other sequels or to other leagues where we don't necessarily have all the monsters and everything made like that. So, not to say it's impossible, but it's just an interesting factor that came up that allowed us to do more here than we might, you know, if we don't forward think enough or forward plan enough, and I mean quite far in advance, because like making these full monsters from scratch is not a short-term process. You know, we might not be able to do for some other leagues. So, you know, just a kind of fun internal kind of consideration that we made.
Well, like an interesting thing here as well with the fact that Breach is in PoE 2, and I don't normally get into lore, so lore warning. but I'll try and keep it as oversimplified as possible because I definitely have delved into the deep end of the lore of this stuff. But so to simplify it, PoE 1, Chayula, baddie, we fight them. They're like the pinnacle boss from the first game, and yet in PoE 2 they're like explicitly not there as part of the boss of that, and also there's this lore kind of exploring the idea that they helped humanity at some point. So I'm curious if this expansion is kind of filling out the
I think
story
that the new
in between.
WoW skill is going to be dog shit.
100%
Too
is.
delayed.
That was a huge other win we got to do here, because really there was like, okay, there's the breaches in
Is it
PoE
the-
1, you know, previous to Keepers of the Flame, and then there's kind of
I mean,
breaches in PoE
yeah,
2 with
delayed
the
because
Twisted Domain. And
you
it's
have
like,
to
wait,
wait
how did
for
we
the
get here?
tornadoes to hit,
What
but
happened? Okay, so there's 25
we'll
years.
have to see,
What's
because it
going
could
on
be
here? So
good too.
we wanted to, given again, because 9 years ago we weren't really putting that much into the narrative of leagues and into, you know, you'd find back then, I mean, you know, we're not far from Onslaught League back then, right? It was just 20% of some stats. So, and even when we had Anarchy, there was Exiles, but like there's, you know, there's named characters, but we didn't really have voice acting for anything, you know, like we've kind of stepped up our game in a lot of delivery of that. So now we get to, you know, come back and go, let's establish a bit more about Breach. Obviously there's uniques and flavor texts historically, but yeah, we got to establish a little bit more, add some interesting stuff to it. Meanwhile, also, yeah, progressing the narrative towards what if people are playing PoE 2 see. Now that being said, if you just play PoE 2, you don't need to know all of this. If you just play PoE 1, good on you. You now know it all. You know, it's all entirely optional information to know, but yeah, you kind of have this. I mean, worth noting, you know, on the kind of Chiola arc, you know, yeah, there's a bit of like, is he good, is he bad kind of thing going on. Still to be determined, at least for the players.
I've got a cult following, but that doesn't necessarily mean one way or the other, does it?
You know, like he was a baddie here. You're an acolyte of Chiola over there.
Yeah.
What goes on in between? But
I was reading the flavor text of the acolyte of Chayula this morning. And I'm like, even that doesn't really like kind of suggests that maybe it's not a good idea to be following them. But but there's power.
But like the monastery of the Keepers of the Flame is actually where the monk trained and from PoE 2 grew up and all of that stuff. So kind of little fun bits there. People playing both games will appreciate it. It's still great. It's going to be great in either game, and it allows us to develop. So because look, they're both set in Rayclass, it's still a shared narrative, and it's nice to be able to like evolve all of that. And it's it's honestly been fun, really, honestly doing all of that.
It's cool. It's cool to expand kind of like some of the story of the Ascendancies there as well. Like you're getting a bit more of a tie in there as well. But you said the monks trained there, though. I thought you were just telling me earlier that the monks trained here in the studio. What's
yeah, so technically now, officially, the monk has been trained by one of our IT administrators here, since he was the person he's I'm not sure what the martial art is, but, you know, he's very well trained, I believe a black belt, and we used him for our mocap reference.
That's so cool.
Hopefully he doesn't mind me mentioning that, but, you know, it's
awesome.
it's quite fun. I think our animators enjoyed that one a little bit as well. So
that's awesome. You guys hadn't really done too much of that in the past, or?
You mean mocap?
Yeah, like mocap
I mean, the
stuff?
animators always film visual references, so like, I mean, they've got a room basically where they go up and they're just, you know, like doing all the animation, acting out. They're often not actually mocapping technically with like, you know, all of the suit and everything, but they're often filming that and then doing animation to it. So it's pretty common.
I'd say one of the most useful pieces of technology that we've been able to benefit from is it's a literally single phone shot mocap and very quick from recording to in-game animation. It works really well for animating obviously humans, but also for when it's involving just a single human. It's like ultra quick. Like if you have two and they have to interact and make contact, it's not very good at handling that. But it's been insanely fast. Just you just get a single small tripod with a phone, and you can record a human and chuck it in game pretty rapidly. So that's been amazing, and honestly, almost all of the human animations you'll now see in game where it's not someone punching or hitting another person. So like, it's not, you know,
So a bunch of
combat and kind of
stuff has been ported out from PoE 2 to PoE 1.
Freestanding town idols and all of that stuff. Yeah, you can do pretty rapidly now. been a pretty big improvement, I'd say, in a cool way. So
Yeah, and I mean, you're getting like PoE2 quality stuff in Path of Exile 1 as well. Like, I've definitely seen things like that's a lot more going on there than there usually is in PoE 1. You were just talking about the fact that the original bosses were just exiles with extra color filters on them, right?
I mean, everything new that goes into PoE 1 like has been a lot higher standard than some of the early stuff for a very long time, right? Because it's not like you have people being like, oh, you know what, I'm going to make this worse quality because it's going in PoE 1. Like, obviously they're going to make something look as good as we can make it, right?
So artists are artists,
yeah,
you know?
exactly,
They
right?
just
So
make the good
Yep,
quality
especially the
Probably phone it in a bit more, I reckon.
they don't. No, an artist doesn't want to do that, right?
especially the
that's good.
Great House.
So,
That
Who wants to
was
do that?
probably
So
the
that's
best
when you
thing.
remove their job
they
satisfaction.
did.
Right.
Make bad stuff.
yeah.
It's too good. Yeah, fair
And
enough.
it worked
So you mentioned the
way,
same
way
thing,
better
lots
than
of
I
different
thought it
circles on the
would
mechanical front.
at first.
I noticed that there's actually two
There
distinct
was
types of bridges
no
here. There's
problems.
close to the original one.
If
but
you
then there's
look
the
at
five one.
what
What
you're
are the
buying,
differences
it's
between
all
the two
good.
and how
But
they work?
We've got 4 encounters total.
never got scammed either.
The more common
Bunch
one
of
is the
people
kind of
have, but they
what we're
scammed
seeing as the
themselves
hive.
because
So
they
the breach
didn't
have come
check what they
through
were buying.
those that the
So,
hand portals. They've stabilized
yeah.
the breach and are now building their hives. And so you'll come across there's heaps of walls and constructs and
But
some
otherwise,
half
the
organic, half inorganic.
trade site is good.
And you get the little spider things.
When
which
you
is, I think,
wake
is the
up
Twitch
and
dot
go
for
to
stream.
the
You get those and they're kind of
to
building
the
and they're, like,
NPC
putting
and
together, like,
you see a
molecule
bunch
by
of
molecule,
divines,
building these hives. And
really is
that's the
a
one where
good
you
feeling.
come in and you get given the power of the keepers of the flame, and that can just incinerate away all of the material, and you're kind of just like running around pretending to be a righteous fire build for a moment.
I'll just note as well
Yep.
that you don't have to click any doors or like
Oh, yeah,
jump
no,
into
no,
any
no, no, no.
walls.
Run through.
They
We should
just
have
evaporate
had
before you
Run
these
around,
way
run around
earlier,
burning stuff. It's
to be
kind of
honest.
satisfying. You see ash going everywhere. There's a couple things going on there. So generally when you get to the center, you summon an Aelith, you start the encounter. And effectively just kill a whole bunch of monsters. They're trying to get to her. They're trying to kill her. They're not super effective at it. We're not doing the whole like, they are wanting to aggro on her. They're gonna try and kill you. That's honestly more of an immersive flavor thing than it is like.
OBS doesn't like it if I game and also watch the
Like
stream at
because
the
I
same
want them to
time.
just keep killing monsters being the primary focus.
But there is a thing where the more walls you burn, the more
Yeah,
stuff you
there's
get.
amongst all the walls you can get these like
Buy some
spawners,
supporter
like
packs
hive
or
portals,
something this time.
where the monsters can then come through. So if you want to activate more, to have more monsters, have more difficulty, and get more
Yeah,
reward, you wanna
maybe
burn as many of those hive spawners as possible, and then they will turn into
I
portals.
was
once
thinking
the fight
about
begins.
the
If you just want to run to the center,
the
start
back
fight,
alley
fight, and
trailer.
leave, go for
Maybe
it.
I don't know. We'll see.
The other thing here is though,
Nothing
that, of
really
course,
sticks out for me.
obviously
Like
this can be a bit of
I
a
really,
clear
really
speedy
want to
thing
buy
where it's like,
my own
so
supporter
during
packs
those
this time.
encounters, using the power of the purple flame, these kind of purple flames scatter out, and each of them kind of has a skill attached, just like an oh shit button. And so like if you're getting overwhelmed, there's like different things you can just click if you wanted to, if you needed to. Most powerful characters, you'll be fine. Just as it kind of like will send out a giant nuke and clear stuff, or like create this like flame wall, and anything that runs into it will burn. And that's honestly more to help out players that are kind of struggling or on the weaker end and aren't like, able to kind of keep up with it. So it just normalizes the difference between bottom end and top end a bit. Again, not meant to be intrusive, not meant to be like complicated. We kept it simple, and it's just like 99% of it.
I mean,
is just
when you boil it down, it's basically just like a fast-paced wave defense. Like, just survive 6-8 waves of
Pretty
monsters
much,
that are
yeah.
rushing at you pretty fast, and but it doesn't have that same clear speed pressure that the like basic one has.
Yeah. So that's one encounter. Second encounter is like the traditional breach, the one that players have, historically been playing.
Yeah,
You activate a thing, the breach expand out. So these are breaches that haven't been stabilized yet.
it's like what they did
So they haven't
with the
come through and
games.
built
So
their hive.
I
So you activate it,
Yep.
it starts.
I mean, that's how
expanding,
it should
kill
be.
The monsters. That's it's revealing, and then once you've killed enough, and if you can kill enough, like it can be kind of hard early game, but like towards end game, that's your goal. You'll notice a progress bar filling up, and once the breach gets to the end, that means that it will become stable. And so what was going to happen is when it becomes stable, the breach are going to send through their like difficult monsters, their elites, their enforcers, their front line to come through and secure the area so they can send through their like little worker spiders to start building their hives. So this is like a yet to be a hive. And so you obviously don't witness all of that. Generally what you do experience is you kill enough monsters And then in the center, the portal
And also,
activates,
Breach
once,
really needed a
monsters
rework.
and a boss floods through. And
Like,
so now you have to go back to the center and fight all that, kill everything, defeat the boss, get the loot, and then everything drops then and there once you successfully do that.
Getting crafting and everything else with that,
You know, you can still
quite a
play
lot,
the
to be
older
honest.
way if you want and like not get the
it was
super
like maybe we
rewards,
get some
or maybe
rewards
you want to
and
move on. But
that's
generally
it.
speaking,
But
you want to go back to the middle. You want to
crafting
kill
is
either the
sounding really good.
waves of hordes of monsters coming through the portal or the boss that
And
spawns.
that like locks open then once you reach that stabilization point.
Yeah,
So
it
you
locks
don't have
open
to
the time.
rush.
Yeah, so that's another good thing. Yeah, so the existing breach. I mean, obviously, it's pretty outdated and even imbalanced, and often people were killing the breach lords, the wild ones, in like a matter of seconds. But I wanted to make sure that boss fight.
I mean,
didn't have
that
time
that
conditions.
doesn't mean that
Once
it's gonna
it
change.
stabilizes, that's it. You just
Nice.
once you kill
Still
those
gonna-
bosses, you have infinite time to kill
Probably
the boss, fight those monsters.
Still gonna be
You know,
able
it's
to
like,
kill
go,
some
go, go.
breach
So,
lords
like,
in
it is
seconds,
more
but
substantial, and generally because you've cleared everything in that circle now, it's like it almost like you created your own arena. You've got like a nice clear area.
It's gonna
where
be
you
a
fight
new
that
one.
boss and focus on killing that boss. Now he has minions in a regard, so obviously it's not just one-on-one, but that mechanic's like quite cool. So that's the like Varun, the Marshal of Zesht fight. He has some specific drops. You generally want to kill him. And then, so that's encounter number 2. And then, encounter number 3. I know who's going on a bit of a thing here, but these next
yeah, the breach lords.
Encounter number 3 is the kind of sky fortress, as you saw. It's very similar to the first fight. It's kind of like, oh, we didn't stop this hive. Some of these hives have been getting built for weeks or whatever, and now they're like, full giant mega structures. So you climb the beanstalk, as they called it, the breach beanstalk.
Nice.
You get up to the sky fortress, and honestly, it's kind of just like a map of breach
Yeah,
monsters.
there's no
You're clearing
timer.
through.
It's not
Nah,
like a
no
breach that
timer at this
demands-
point. You can just clear the area and leave. Taking your rewards with you, but in the center is like the hive encounter, the very first one, like a wave-based encounter. It's just a lot more epic, and you have to, the same exact thing, except Aelith's like, it's going to take a lot more explosive power to destroy the rest of this hive and seal this portal, so you might want to get out of here. So generally speaking, once you've killed all the waves, you then have to get out of the area before Aelith burns the entire thing to the ground.
Cool.
Normally you can survive that, not in this case. You might want to get out of there. Once you do, you get all the loot. Sweet. You're not going to get that encounter too frequently, but it can be a little bit of fun, a little bit more action-packed when you're trying to escape. And then the fourth encounter is pretty similar to that, except it's just an area with your pinnacle boss, your in-game boss fight at the end of it.
And you basically didn't show those in the trailer, because I did note that people were like wondering why you showed kind of so much of the Uber bosses for the regular content, but you didn't really show any of these guys.
We generally avoid showing bosses for sure, especially new ones. You get a silhouette of it, a single emerge shot, and for sure, like for the Ubers, we're like, well, they've got like 10, 15 skills each. Let's show one mechanic we've changed of each. Maybe not the best option. Like, I know people like their full mystery, so like maybe lesson learned in the future might just show nothing. But we only did show one of all of their skills that have changed, just so people get a general grasp of how they're changing.
Yeah.
But I probably, given the feedback, I'm probably just not going to show those again. So
Fair enough.
We'll let it be a mystery. But yeah.
So this skill tree, you actually did it. You made a skill tree. Well done.
The tree.
But this
Tree.
tree is quite fascinating, because it's not just a like a meta progression system for the league or something. Like, there is that, it is progressing, but it is a crafting system. It's a tree that is a crafting system. And from messing around with that, like, it feels kind of brilliant. Like, this is a really good idea. How did that come about?
It was kind of a mixture from Chris Octavian and I can't remember who. Me and him and kind of Andrew. We all kind of just came up with ideas. But I think the original tree that spawns items or grows items and then hatches items came from Octavian. And the grafts, mind you, as well. He's got a nice creative brain on that one. Comes up with some cool ideas. I like that kind of out there style of design.
Good job, Octavian.
And so eventually we took that kind of idea. I was the one who brought Breach to the table and was like, oh, we can unify these, and that came from a interesting thing where in the Twisted Domain in PoE 2, you get these you have these trees made of hands that the environment artists made, and I really love them, and I'm like, normally because you're on a timer in that area and you're going hard, you're fighting monsters. You don't
I actually thought that they were gonna
assets in there.
just make it like PoE 2
Damn, I wanna
Breach
use
and
those
then call it a
trees
day, but
because I think they're petrified.
they
in
actually
version,
did
so it's like, what does that
did
look
quite
like?
good
It's
on it.
alive, a bit more organic, a bit more gross.
It's even better than PoE 2
tree that hatches items
Breach.
and it has this fruit, and then we were like, nah,
Way
I don't
better.
want just a tree that has fruit. We just make it needs to be gross and dark and horror. You know, it's like this is a gothic world, and so yeah, we obviously went a little bit more crazy with the theming on it all. But I like it. Right, it is dark. It's like a little. You've got this alien-esque demon species, right?
It's
Like
squeezing the items out like with a bunch of pus.
Yeah, it kind of came like that, and then it's like, wow, it needs a meta progression. The good thing about the tree having a passive tree is we get to reuse all the same code that our passive trees use, and then the other because it's good because then you don't have to make a completely bespoke system. And again, it's picking your battles, being able to focus more on what the nodes do as opposed to the underlying system.
I think what's pretty interesting about it though is the way that like it actually for crafting. It's quite interesting how it sort of encapsulates the idea that you've got like various dependent choices. You don't normally think about crafting in that way, but that's really what crafting is. And so it kind of like means that it's actually a surprisingly natural interface for crafting. Like,
That's what was
works.
striking me
Yeah,
about it,
it works really well.
Yeah, hopefully this fixes the
It's kind of a pretty interesting one.
lag.
I don't think I've ever seen it before. Someone doing anything quite like that. So
Yeah, like
No.
crafting trees and stuff, but they usually are separate, or there's like some little bit.
Maybe.
Yes,
No.
like that's what I was thinking because I'm thinking a lot about like how do you communicate crafting because it's a pretty complicated thing generally, even in its simplest in Path of Exile. But this does seem to have like a very natural, more understandable way of communicating it because you're allocating the nodes for the craft. You get to see the structure of your craft in a visual manner, which I'm like,
It is cool.
So,
And how did we go this? So we've got multiple character trees. We've got world area trees. Is this the first crafting tree?
well, kind of. There was the one with the items. I don't even remember the name.
There was
of it
the
anymore.
there was the
Crucible?
The Crucible
yeah.
one.
that was items having trees. That wasn't a tree to craft.
Yeah,
It was an
You
item
could
growth
kind
system,
of
yeah.
argue Scourge is like the whole microwave mechanic, kind of. It wasn't really a tree. It was like a grid. It was a bit different, you know. So I don't know. It might be our first true crafting tree.
It's like I just can't help but wonder. Like we'll see, I guess, after a league, but I just can't help but wonder if you like accidentally stumbled upon one of the potential solutions to like how do you communicate crafting to players because it's so hard to do. It's like I don't know, maybe this has applications elsewhere. This idea.
We'll see how it goes, and there's a lot to expand on here, of course. Like when you have these kinds of tree systems and. You know, immediately people are going to be like, oh, keystones and, where's my crafting tree notables and masteries and jewel slots.
My cluster jewels for my crafting tree.
Yeah, build your own crafting tree.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes, but obviously that depends, you know. We don't want to overcomplicate it off the bat, so you come in with something kind of simple, elegant, see how it works, see how people respond to it, and then... You know, if things go core, because we always like to decide based on how the players respond, we can evaluate how we want it to be, if we want to change it, if we want to leave it as is, if we want to, so we'll do all that. But yeah, it's cool. I like a lot of the ideas coming here with that, with that and the grafts and stuff like that. There's some pretty crazy cool things.
So talking about like the idea of preserving some of the stuff from the old breach or what's not being kept. So you had the old breach lord domains. They're effectively being replaced or removed here.
So those are all we've kept. Breach 1, I don't know what you'd call it, fully intact on standard.
Really?
Whereas on this league, it's the full Breakwall Keepers of the Flame mechanics. So full replacement. None of that is there in the current while playing in Keepers of the Flame. Like all of the breach nodes on the Atlas tree are gone, and all that. So you've got the current league. Obviously, our intention is that it goes core, but we'll take the better elements of it. One interesting thing here is obviously we still have all the old stuff. So if we miss the mark on some things, it's still there. We can bring it back. We can integrate it. We can, obviously it would suck, to have to accept that we have to keep using all the old art and old mechanics and old fight to some degree. But like, if they're more fun, they're more fun. We're not necessarily here in the business of taking away things that people loved. So obviously I'm pretty confident in what we've got is going to be amazing, and as you said, first impressions pretty positive. So, but worst comes to worst, if we have to take the best of both worlds and merge them, then that's still what we're going to do. Now that being said, so yes, you don't have breach domains in Keepers of the Flame. You got all those new mechanics I described earlier. But that isn't to say there isn't a future where we have a prequel to the prequel, and we have or an update, not necessarily another sequel, but you bring back some of those things that were good about it. So immediately I can see people coming to mind, but what about the uniques or the rewards? We have kept all of that. All of that can be spawned from the tree. You can grow pretty much all of it. You can find. I won't reveal exactly how to do that. You can figure that out.
Yeah, nice.
But you can generally get all of the historic rewards from Breach from the new mechanic as well. We've tried to keep all of that.
Does this mean Breach rings finally get a revamp after sitting there with
Breach rings won't get a revamp.
Yeah, well, they got their improvement in PoE too, so we had already accepted that having a double effect while in Breach, especially given, that's only useful some small percentage of the time generally.
Yeah.
Not good enough. So yes, the breach rings have been reworked. I believe the implicits are all max res of the corresponding element types.
Okay.
I can't remember what this one is. Whatever, we'll deal with that. But I believe it also restricts or constrains the mods you can roll in it. So it's like Zoff rings, fire mods, etc., etc.
Cool.
Oh, so it's not like PoE 2 with the 40% quality.
I was pretty excited to see that. I expected it to be like it would remove a modifier and then just replace it with like a random rare modifier or something. But it seems like they're actually handmade modifiers, like there's bespoke modifiers, and even multiple, like those 2 Quill Rain ones. Is this just like a long list of them? And surely you can't do 1,000 uniques worth of those.
I actually don't know what number they got to, but effectively it was just like, we'll just go until we run out of time. But nice. Yeah, like there's just a whole bunch of uniques. It is here's the list of mods that it can lose. Here's the list of mods it can be replaced with on a per unique basis. Yes. Right. Again, not all the uniques. I almost assure you it won't be the majority. And obviously you're not going to be getting pinnacle boss uniques from here and stuff like that. Those are restricted to things that have specific drop locations. But yeah, that being said, it is a list. It would suck to, lose the key mod on an item. So generally speaking, we don't allow like what gives that unique full identity to be removed. A lot of it can be either the fluff stats, sometimes the downsides, some stuff like that. So yeah, we'll just kind of see.
Can I put in a unique?
People love that. It would be the thing where we can add more and more and more and more, and then eventually we will have the entire unique covered. So we'll just see how that goes. But
wild,
kind of fun.
You love to see it. So the other thing was these creepy arms that you can grow on yourself. I love that. We just here have an arm. Sure. Just plug it into your back. Why not? I mean, we were shoving rusty bits of metal in ourselves and stuff before, so why not continue with that? But these are like, it was in the video, but I didn't really like kind of understand kind of how impactful they'd be until I was messing around with it, especially for leveling. But these are like pretty major skills and an extra layer, because especially so there's 16 of them, and you can have 2 of them, and they're like a mixture of auto casting skills, proc based things, so like on attack or something, and manually cast in some cases as well. Like I had a tornado that was like crazy. So these seem pretty significant. What's kind of like the plan for how impactful you want these to be, or like, especially at endgame, like they'll definitely like very impactful while leveling.
Obviously, there's always going to be a spectrum of usability. Generally speaking, yeah, they're going to be pretty powerful. But you know how strong characters can get. They can generally outclass everything. That being said, for a long way, they're going to be pretty damn useful. And even beyond then, there's generally can scale the difficulty of the game like hectically. You'll notice like something I think you observed as well. The numbers on the skills are like out of control.
Yes.
That is because they don't scale with your stats.
Yeah.
Obviously, debuffs on the enemy, anything you debuff on them does. But yeah, they don't scale with your increases. The reason for that is that I wouldn't want it to be that if you're a spellcaster, you have to use one that's doing a spell, because you generally focus on increases. And I didn't want it to be that, now in order to benefit from grafts, you have to really only invest in global damage increases and stuff like that. It would restrict the character builds too much. So we made them not scale with your character stats. Obviously, again, as said, if you reduce the resistances of the enemy, then the enemy takes more damage, that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's a kind of a lot of them that vary from utility through to just like pure offensive power. They all also just come with stats, so... And yeah, as you said, if you didn't want to, like, there's ones where you use skills and you can use that tactically.
I'll be back
you
in like 2 minutes.
Use that with some of your abilities, or if you just want to, you know, effectively let it autocast, there are versions for that as well. If you just can't be bothered, that's also fine. And honestly, at the worst comes to worst, at the end of the day, they still kind of just give some mods, and that's fine. And they are obviously used to, if you want to get one that just like specializes in harvesting more graft blood. That's also a thing you can do because those systems are linked. Like the grafts do gain the graft blood, which is what you give to the Genesis tree to give the item. So there's kind of a nice interlink between.
I mean, they should really be replacing the power that you previously got from mercenaries, right? Like if the league needs to give you something that's going to fit in that power curve. So therefore, you can look at it in a similar.
They are mercenaries on your back.
Yeah, in a way you could say that. Yeah.
That's what I was kind of thinking when I was messing with it. It's like, okay, so we're going to have 2 of these. It definitely feels like how I was looking at the mercenaries and picking mercenaries that had like 2 really good skills. Right. It was kind of a similar idea. So the design of mercenaries has informed this somewhat, then it seems.
Sadly, you can't gear your arms.
No.
Can't put items
can't put a bunch of rings on them.
Gloves.
Tell your arm to hold a sword. Yeah. You know, that would have been kind of fun though.
That would be pretty cool. The way Octavian explained the graphs to me was he said they're not you, and I'm like, somehow that's really creepy to hear. It's like they're attached to you, but they're not a part of you. That was explaining the scaling. Like that's why they don't scale with your stats because they're not you.
They're independent life forms and therefore don't benefit from your passive tree.
We didn't do this, but we had a desire to do unique ones, which I thought was kind of going to be fun. We might do this later, like going core, we'll do it, but we're like, what if you, and I think it was Octavian's like, what if you had a leg growing out of your back? What does that mean? And I was like, what if you had like a good jacked quadrilla arm or something? Because I was like, you can just have unique ones where they have like just like deformations, and you can have like random, deformed, crazy things going on, or like. I think I had a design. I was like, what if there was one that was like converted? You're like, I don't care about the league. It converts all graft blood to gold or something, and it's a kind of like cursed pirate treasure arm or something. And we'll see if that goes somewhere later. But I think that could be kind of fun to play around with. So
there's definitely some sort of like biomutant kind of combining of limbs and genetics and stuff potential here, maybe.
Later mechanic, right? Like nice to have these things you can expand on. So.
Yeah, so it looks like you can synergize with them, but you don't necessarily scale them directly, like you're saying. You can debuff enemies and things like that. While we pan down to some of our additional questions, I've been noticing some that get mentioned a lot in chat that we'll kind of transition over to briefly. So WASD gets mentioned a lot, like if that's something that's planned for Path of Exile 1, if it's feasible, what goes into
so
that?
In order,
it's a pretty big deal.
In order for WASD to happen in PoE 1, we need to get the rigs from PoE 2. In order for that to happen, we need to finish moving all the microtransactions over, which has definitely been a bit of a slow task that we kind of need to get through.
Yeah.
And so effectively it would be like we do want to do that at some point. And then after that point we can make WASD for PoE 1. But yeah, it's just a question of getting through all that work, and then we can do it. Like, I'm not against it by any means. It's just it's just, I mean, I want it to happen. It's just getting all those things moved over to the new rigs is the limiting factor.
Yeah, and you want it to be kind of reaching a certain threshold, it seems like, of quality.
Well, I mean, so yes, you can do it. You can do it by
like
just like where the character just rotates.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that gets like that the quality of that is really not great. Like, I don't think it feels good. So I kind of want to make do it with the proper rigs that we get. And look, that would be so beneficial to everything anyway. Like, we're highly motivated to do that because it means that we don't have to rig a bunch of stuff for the old rigs anymore, which a bunch of artists would definitely appreciate. So yeah, like we will get that done, and then but yeah, it's going to take a while. Like, it could be quite a while.
The biggest benefit from the rigs is just that we're going to then be able to actually do a lot more new skills.
Animation
in PoE 1 as well that actually use new animations, and it's not going to be an absolute nightmare to try and make. So that's going to be epic when we actually get to that point and can just be like, okay, floodgates open, let's go and make a whole bunch of new skills that are using new animations. Because you'll notice, even though we have a bunch of new skills in this patch, it's all using the existing animations and different like means of delivering it. So generally speaking, we have, you know, kind of your spell projectile, spell AoE, spell buff. They're kind of separated into all these categories.
Yeah.
And so when you generally do a buff, you just use the buff one, and AoE use AoE one. But as a result, we don't have like just like cool bespoke things where you know, I don't know, do a flip while doing a, you know, doing crazy stuff like that. We're not going to be able to really get that in PoE 1 just because the cost is insane to animating that. You got to do that on 7 different characters, 7 different rigs
with all the different weapon sets.
Yeah, with every single weapon set. And because generally PoE 1 doesn't have like as much restrictions on the weapons to skill association, it would you'd be like, oh, it's it's not great. It's really not great, and it would be like the cost of doing that would mean we'd have to do so much less other stuff. So yeah, I mean, just a random tangent on why the rigs would be beneficial as well. Like immediately, I'm just like, oh my god, please, I want to do new skills that are like.
But we will do it eventually. It's just porting all those stuff.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting insight that you even plan to kind of bring this like PoE 2 rigging system over to PoE 1 for animations and things like that, because that indicates that the future of Path of Exile 1 is not like very static visually. Like obviously we're seeing new stuff getting ported back, but potentially a lot of stuff getting remade and updated, and like PoE 1 is anticipated to change a lot in that regard over time.
Well, I mean, yeah, it just like for no other reason that it makes our lives easier, we need to do it. But yes, it will have the side effect of making the game look better too, which I guess is good.
So another thing I saw mentioned in chat quite often was like asking for Trial of the Ancestors and what's the plans or status of that.
I mean, we want to do it. That ultimately is just a resource thing again. It's like it's one of those ones that it can't be 1-to-1. It was too gameable, too solvable. Like got to a point where it was like this is the strat you do. We need to like fix a bunch of stuff with it. It's not out of the question. It's honestly just a like whenever we assess the scope, it comes up all the time. And it's like, oh, we could do this, or this. What do we? And it's always going to come at a cost to something, and it just has been so far. You know, at least 326, 327 that we've wanted to make sure that we had other priorities. I guess it's safe to say. So
I'm gonna have to go.
TBD. Who knows?
So,
you know, well, these every single time we don't
this will
plan
have to
too
be
far in advance with the stuff. Generally, when we are at the next league or the next 2 leagues worth of discussions, it's like we have a list of things that we could
I'll watch
do.
the
It's in that list.
Ziggity for tomorrow.
I'm sure it'll come up
at
at some
work,
point. So we'll see.
quite late, so I watched what I needed. Done.
Something similar is occurring in Path of Exile 2 that might help you kind of like
The more
see
interesting
some of the
things. So
for PoE 1. So
this is
that
it.
gives people an idea of the time frame.
Well, as I said once, if
Muff.
obviously there's a could do with respect to PoE 2, but
Bye.
if we manage to go down that route, we get to do the exact same thing we did with Breach here, which is that if we have all the monsters made, you know, and a lot